Back at Queensland Raceway, we've got it covered on the Mega Wall, getting set for Touring Car Masters, race 1, round 4 of the championship for the old school cars. And when you've got a category like this, we've let Marco loose. He's in the box with us. Do you know what you're doing in here? This is not pit lane and there are no whiteboards.
Well, you know, Larko, mate, he usually found sleeping under a tree somewhere, but when the Touring Car Masters come out, up he pops, mate. I love this stuff.
And this guy, he is flying. John Bowe is the series leader. We'll run through the grid. He starts from pole. He's clocked up his 22nd career TCM pole. But there's some pretty quick cars and a few changes to the lineup. Greg Crick, who we normally see racing a Viper in GT racing, he's making his TCM debut. Mark King, a former GT Performance champion, he's stepping into the Bob Middleton Camaro. And we've got such a mixture of cars between the heavy American muscle, the heavy Aussie muscle, and then the likes of the Porsches and that down the rear of the field in the smaller categories. 21 cars, it's a good field.
I was actually just having a chat to Greg Crick, and I wouldn't be surprised if you see him sticking around. This is a bit of a one-off this weekend, but you watch this. I guarantee we'll have a chat to him later. He'll love it.
He's in the number 99 Falcon. We'll keep an eye on him. Here's the series points as it sits. John Bowe leads, but not by much. Jimmy Richards 11 back in that fantastic Shannon's AMC Javelin that starts on the front row. Brett Youlden is third. He's pretty unwell this weekend in the green Monaro. He's starting way back there. He is just on the right of screen, 15th on the grid. So he's got a bit of work to do to get through them. But John Bowe has been the form man this year. He is the reigning champion in TCM, and his history is so well known. A Bathurst winner, an Australian Touring Car champ, an Australian Drivers champ. We could be here all day running through the CV, but he puts himself in the prime position on pole.
And as we look at him about to start, Noons, normally you'd say very hard to get a race car 1.5 tons off the line. With these, with the amount of torque, no problem. The issue is controlling the wheel spin.
Old cars, but a lot of modern bits inside them, but some pretty good drivers as well. So Bowe and Richards on the front row. Andrew Medicki on row 2 in that yellow Camaro. Keith Kasuki in the blue XB Falcon Coupe. Let's wind back the clock. Touring Car Masters for the first time at Queensland Raceway in 3 years. And talk about the starts. Have a look at Eddie Albanese in that red XB Coupe, slicing down the inside, trying to get in on Andrew Medicki. He won't get there, but he will get to 5th spot. But it's Bowe who leads the way. On board with Andrew Medicki in P3 in this Bob Middleton-owned Camaro. And if you're not got a V8, you're going to struggle.
Yeah, and this is so typical. Look at that, run wide coal tyres. So typical of all forms of racing, Noons, particularly at this circuit. What you need to do here now is, as soon as you can, settle down, get some temperature into the tyres, some temperature into the brakes, get into a rhythm, and then think about your attack plan.
So it's Bowe who leads, Richards, Medicki, Kasuki. There's Eddie Albanese with Tony Edwards in that SLR 5000 Toronto that Paul Morris did some practice laps in yesterday. Tony retired a couple of weeks ago, but he couldn't help himself. He had to come back. Have a look at this for on the edge driving. Steve Mason, who was the inaugural TCM champ a few years back. This Mustang Fastback, it's starting to come on strong. And it's running in the Pro Sportsman class. That's for the cars that are up to 5 litres. The outright cars like Bowe and Richards and the like, they're from 5 litres to 6. They're the really heavy muscle.
Yeah, these things will be making over 600 horsepower. I guess for me, Noons, one of the important things for a category that's becoming more and more popular as this is, and I think you're going to see as guys, perhaps like me, I'm not going to drive anytime soon, but as we age, this is a very attractive proposition. That's why you see the likes of Cricky and Bowe end up here. The trick will be now moving forward, controlling cost in this category, and the boys are aware of it.
I thought we were going to get a scoop there. Larko returns to racing. This is Greg Crick in the yellow Falcon. This is the Steve Macarios owned car that Greg's actually driven this before in some testing going back a few years, so he's not completely unfamiliar. Of course, he's racing a Viper in the GT Championship, and normally when you get into an XY GTHO, you wouldn't expect it to be a step down from something, but Richards goes to the lead down at turn 3.
Well, let's not forget, Cricky's got a lot of racing pedigree, hasn't he? Done a lot of years in V8 supercars, or Group A, as they were back known then. A lot of mileage, and was, in fact, for a long time, one of the leading privateers.
Yeah, picked up a lot of good co-drives along the way as well, and Richards has gone to the lead. This is a fantastic car. This is an AMC Javelin. Not many of those made their way into the country, did they, Larko?
No, they didn't, Noons. I think, what, 180 odd made it into Australia?
And where are they all now?
There's 2 out at Hillston. There's a couple at Shepherd. No, I've got no idea, mate. There's, but not many of them, but a beautiful car. And I think, like, over 2 years' work building this car, it is a masterpiece.
Yeah, anything Jimmy does, he does it
well.
Yeah, he does it 100%. Right. This car is yet to really quite break through. It's been running at the front. He hasn't won a race this year in it, but he did have pole for the last round at Darwin. Here's how he did the move at turn 3.
Yeah, it's funny, I was, yeah, a few bumps still there. I was having a chat to a lot of the boys before this session. I was trying to actually get a gauge, Noons, on are they doing it for fun? Because a lot of them say, and well, in fact, every one of them said they absolutely love it. Are they competitive? Make no mistakes.
This is proof in the pudding because Bow is down the inside. Look at the flames from the Mustang. Pulls it up, down and through, back to the lead, and these two go at it. Two Hall of Famers, and I know that so many of the drivers in this category are in awe that they're racing against these guys. They're heroes from over the years.
They are, and as a couple have admitted, they reckon as you get older, the ego gets bigger and you become more competitive than you ever were.
Steve Mason there in the 66 Mustang Fastback, dicing with the Porsches of Greg Keane and Amanda Sparks. Have a look at the grunt of this thing.
And you notice him taking a very, very wide line there. Looks a little bit odd, but very clever, because with that much horsepower that Mustang's got, to get the drive down to the ground without torturing your tyres, use as much track as you can. That's smart.
He's out way wide there at turn 5. Look at these things swarming. And now to the right, that's Greg Keane. And that's Michael Armand, in fact, in the 26 car, the young gun who his father Ross done a lot of racing over the years, and Michael's been racing GT3 Cup Challenge in Porsches. Slightly newer than this one, though.
Well, mate, I'm sitting here a little sad. As you know, mate, I like the big bangers. And I don't like to see Porsches going past big bangers.
Eddie Abonisa here in the XB Coupe, the big Falcon. They had some engine dramas yesterday. They've got a few concerns with a water leak in this car. Tony Edwards, though, this SLR 5000 Tirana had major engine problems last year, but they've got it fast, and more importantly now, they seem to have got it reliable.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see over. I mean, it's only a 12-lap race, but it's hot out there. Track temperature is up. They're on a Hoosier control tyre, so everyone in the field, although in different sizes, has the same compound and construction of tyre. So it somewhat, and there's a lockup, and that's why control tyre is good, because it'll cop that quite well. But managing your tyres with these big cars will be the trick now, because Willowbank Raceway, very tight technical circuit. So where, say, at Bathurst, Phillip Island, some of the other events these guys will go to, they've got to pull up the crutch straps tight. Here, you need to use your head. The
top three are clearing away at Queensland Raceway. 1/3 race distance. It's John Bow who leads the way. Can Jimmy Richards get the Javelin to its first race win? More from Queensland Raceway in just a sec. Ford and Holden going at it at Queensland Raceway. At the moment, it's Touring Car Masters, and it's Tony Edwards in the SLR 5000 up against Keith Kasuki in the XB Coupe Falcon. And Larko, I don't have to guess which one you're barracking for here.
Exactly, mate. I'm a big fan of the coupe. But what has surprised me just watching the first half of this race, the amount of overtaking Nerds.
Yeah,
much more than expected, and I reckon that sort of summarises where this category sits, because if you took an overarching look at it, I mean, here's a
replay down at turn 3. Oh, now that's Michael Wedge in the HQ that Jim Morton's team have just purchased. That's the car, you might remember, that Jason Richards, our late great mate, drove so well at Bathurst last year in October. But it's found its way off into the scenery down at turn 3. On board with Andrew Badicki. He's in 3rd spot. He's broken the lap record by 1.5 seconds. There's been great development in 3 years since they were last here. Let's soak it up. 69 Camaro. GM fans, have a listen to this.
I can smell the fumes coming through the TV screen. You watch when he picks up the throttle here. It is so hard to pick it up. Look, gently, gently. A little snap of oversteer. So much torque, these things sound beautiful.
And you see the shift lights on the dash. I don't think they were in it in 69 somehow.
No, they weren't. And a great way to learn to drive one of these cars would be to drive them bare feet.
Steve Mason off the road the Mustang Fastback.
Drive them bare feet with some nails punched up through the throttle pedal, so you learn throttle control. They have so much torque, it is so hard saw with Andrew Medicki trying to pick the throttle up, coming off some of these tight Willowbank corners.
Replay here of Steve Mason, 2 deep, left front, locked, and out through the grass.
So, Nunes, I was alluding to before where this category kind of sits. If you look at the cars from a body style point of view, they've very much maintained their original form, and that's very important because we love that. But what they've been allowed to do is up-spec them technically, not ridiculously, but a little bit better brakes and engine and gearbox and different these things to make them, A, safer, but more important, you can actually race them now. You don't have to sort of spend the whole race just managing a little set of brakes. As a result of that, we've seen a lot of overtaking this event, and I think that's a good thing.
And this category came from historic touring car racing. They took what's been good there, beefed it up, made it its own category, and of course, look what it's done. Started in 2007 and now is a regular part with us on the V8 Supercars support bill. This is Brett Youlden in that lurid green Monaro. He won a race earlier on in the year down at Phillip Island. He's struggling this weekend. We'll see his nephew Luke in action in the Dunlop Series for V8 Supercars today and tomorrow here at Queensland Raceway. But there's no danger of not being able to spot this car.
Well, irrespective of performance, Nunes, I stood behind that and a GTHO in the pits before while they were idling, and I can confirm, mate, nothing here at this event this weekend sounds as good as these things idling in the pits. And it's not because they've got the choke pulled out, mate. They've got big mother cams in them.
This is Chris Stillwell in the Trans Am Mustang. He's in the B class pro sportsman and has been really, really strong again in that category. He's been the man to beat in that class. He started 11th overall on the grid, right in the middle. Youlden's moved his way forward. He started 15th and he's up to 10th. But this man smashing them. JB has 2.7 seconds back to Jimmy Richards. And the fastest lap of the race between Bauer, Richards and Medicki are all mid-17s, but he's done more of them more often.
Well, look, I'm not surprised because the art of race driving, John Bauer's mastered for a long time. And I was talking to Mark King prior to the race, and he said when you drive these things, you sort of they're a big, heavy steel monster. They take a big set, so it becomes a bit of an art form to drive them. Very, very specialised, and you know, we're looking at a couple of the best right there, aren't we?
There's the top three: Bauer, Richards, and Medicki. They're now in the 119s. Their pace is a second and a half away from the optimal pace, which goes back to the old days. It doesn't happen in V8 Supercars now. Yes, the tyres drop off, but remember the days at Bathurst where guys were stroking around 9 seconds a lap slower at the end of the day, just trying to nurse the thing to the line.
Yeah, you only just wonder what might have been if this was the rules then, eh?
There's Greg Crick. He's in 8th. Tony Karanfilovsky there in the Big Falcon. He's 9th. Brett Youlden next. Then Chris Stillwell leading Class B. Nigel Benson in the Monaro. Bill Pye 13th in the Camaro. And then Michael Armour, the first of the Porsches. Greg King next through. There's Steve Mason in the red Mustang Fastback. Amanda Sparks. Michael Wedge, there he is. This is that HQ that we spoke about earlier. Jim Morton's purchased the car from Tony Hunter and he's got back into this series after running the car that Glenn Seaton drove last year, which is now in the hands of Keith Kasuki. It's like trying to keep up with all of this is a bit hard.
Yeah, and not in relative terms, Nunes, it's quite a cost-effective sport to get into. I mean, you could buy a car, a good car. I mean, 100 grand, it's a lot of money. In motorsport terms, it's not that much, and you'd probably run the thing for under 100 grand a year. Now, that is quite cost-effective racing.
And remember, too, that they're going to be with us later in the year at the Sandown 500, the Dick Smith Sandown 500, the Super Cheap Auto Bathurst 1000, which is absolutely appropriate that this category is with us for the 50th year of the great race. Brett Youlden very nearly wasn't around turn 5. He was nearly through it, but he's worked his way into the top 10. But this is where the leaders are. Last lap at Queensland Raceway, and John Bauer, they call this thing Mustang Sally. I tell you what, it is the pace car. It is the machine to beat in TCM. He stretched the margin to 3.5 seconds, and he'll cruise it home from here.
It's a beautiful piece of machinery, isn't it? It represents everything this category is.
That's the bit that I wanted to hear. Not afraid to use a bit of curb either, but there's nothing this guy has not done in a motor car. And he's trying to get his second TCM championship in a row. Would you believe he's marching away in the stats books in TCM? This will be race win number 42. No one has come close to this man in this category over the years. This time around, he'll see something he likes. It's a checkered flag, and John Bauer picks up race 1 in round 4 of the Touring Car Masters at Queensland Raceway. Jimmy Richards 2nd in the AMC Javelin. Medicki 3rd in the Chev Camaro. And Daylight back to the rest. Fourth is Tony Edwards in the Tirana. Keith Kasuki next. Les Walmsley back in the category in sixth. Eddie Abelnisa next from Crick. Karen Filofsky and Brett Jordan around out the top 10. After the break, we swap it up. The Dunlop Series for V8 Supercars. Alex Davis is alongside me. Back in a sec.